Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi, folks. Welcome back to Crisco's Corner. PJ Media, another article. Do Stacey Abrams and Raphael Warnock really care about Georgians? You have to wonder. This is a very, very well-written piece by Stacey Lennox here. Any of you could go on pgmedia.com and give her a shout-out. Once you read this article, boy, she's spot on, and it's well-written as well. Let's read on. Stacey Abrams and Senator Raphael Warnock have been vocal in their criticism of the new Georgia election security law. Some of the provisions roll back items in the consent agreement Abrams entered with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, like unmonitored drop boxes. Yeah, anywhere. Any neighborhood, anywhere, no cameras, no security, no nothing. Just drop them anywhere you want and let people fill them up. That's not a good idea. Senator Warnock and his colleague, Senator John Ossoff, are the beneficiaries of some of the prohibitions in the law, like the now illegal Zuck Bucks that selectively provided private funds to election offices throughout the state. I have no clue how they even agreed to that. It's like my Italian grandmother used to say, "What are you, a stupid?" All these items were not voter fraud in the typical sense. They certainly influenced the election. As PJ Media contributor Christian Adams wrote, what these gains did was build structural bias into the 2020 election where structural bias matters most in densely populated urban cores. It converted election offices in key jurisdictions with deep reservoirs of Biden voters into Formula One turnout machines. It did, and read how. The hundreds of millions of dollars built systems, hired employees from activist groups, bought equipment and radio advertisements, and did everything that street activists could ever dream up to turn out Biden voters if only they had unlimited funding. In 2020, they had unlimited funding because billionaires made cash payments to 501c3 charities that in turn make cash payments to government election offices. How the hell they even allow that? That a nonprofit could give to a government office, election office, flush with hundreds of millions in new cash, government election offices turned those donations into manpower, new equipment, and street muscle to turn often sluggish and incompetent urban election offices into massive Biden turnout machines across the country. Ding, 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 ding. I couldn't. I had to take it down off of my channel. It's a Time Magazine article explaining all of that. Punch in Time Magazine Election 2020. It's a long article, but it's worth reading. This is one of the big points. Incompetent urban election offices into massive Biden turnout machines across the country. And look where. Madison, Milwaukee, both Wisconsin, Detroit, and Lansing, both in Michigan, Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and Atlanta, among dozens of others. What do those things all have in common? The vast majority of them are swing states. Ding, ding, ding. Did they use the rules to their advantage? You bet. Like they said, is it unlawful? No. But they allowed them to game the system. I have no idea why that was even allowed. How the hell can a nonprofit, a 501c3, give money to a government election office? That's insane. They don't talk about the elements of the bill that have them worried about 2022. Instead, Abrams, Warnock, President Biden, and their media lapdogs allege the bill aims to suppress votes, cause people to die of thirst, and drag the state back into Jim Crow era policies. Yeah, they won't complain about the fact all that funding is cut from the nonprofits to the government election offices, because that would shine light on it. How's that old saying go? There's no more better disinfectant than sunlight. The claims are absurd in their face when you compare access to the ballot in Georgia with states like New York, Delaware, and New Jersey. Still, activists from groups aligned with Abrams held a die-in at Coca-Cola headquarters. Jesus. They don't want to talk about what they're really mad about because it'll draw light to the fact they're gaming the system. They protested Delta at the airport. Corporate leaders were hectored in public. And the media for staying neutral based on the radical left silences violence philosophy. So if you mind your own business and stay out of a controversial matter, you're guilty. If you take the side that they don't like, you're guilty. So they started speaking out, and then the specter of boycotts began. Major League Baseball has already pulled the All-Star game from Atlanta, and Hollywood actors threatened not to work in the state. Dumb, dumb, dumb. This has nothing to do with voter suppression. What does it usually do, especially in America, have to do with? Has to do with freaking money. Money. Millions and millions they're not going to be able to use to game the system. That's what they're pissed about. They can't say anything because then you go a deep dive into the topic itself and find out it's gaming the system. Then Abrams and Warnock started a backpedaling, knowing it was possible large-scale boycotts could negatively impact Georgians' livelihoods. Yeah, you idiots. You take away the All-Star game, which I'm not a huge baseball fan anyway. I love the history of baseball, even though Ken Burns is a real big lefty. I think he did a great job on the history of baseball, very much like he did the Civil War series. Maybe too much emphasis on the racism that went on and non-black players, but I still think it was well done. Eric Eckerson said Raphael Warnock had the opportunity to urge corporations not to boycott Georgia, but he chose not to. In fact, he urged them to find ways to speak up. Now they have, and he claims he wishes they hadn't. Yeah, why do you think? There's another piece of work there on the left. She's supposed to be a Republican. You should hear her sometime. She actually was cheerful about dropping drones on American citizens. This woman's nuts. Anyway, let's continue on. Every narrative has consequences, and unfortunately for Georgians, the narrative pushed by Abrams, Warnock, and their enablers only hurt those who claim they want to represent. Abrams has painted large portions of the over 10 million residents of the state as racist who wish to marginalize minority communities. You take a drink here, my voice get a little scratchy. Think about that statement for a minute. This narrative energizes boycotts and is patently false. Of course it's false. When the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed, 2.5 million people lived in Georgia. Much of the increase has been people moving in from all over the nation and the world. We have no attachment to the past in the state, and her accusations are offensive, as they should be, just like reparations. My people, from my mother's side and my father's side, came to this country long after slavery. Long after slavery. We don't owe anybody anything. We didn't do anything, neither did our ancestors. Even if they did, it's not my fault. You're right, it's offensive. For all the uproar over President Trump's questioning results in an extraordinary election in 2020, Abrams was never been criticized for failing to concede her 2018 race. Yeah, she said the same things now. If you put this on your YouTube channel, you'll get a strike or you'll be taken down or lose your channel or get a warning like I did reporting on a major magazine article. Her claims of election meddling and voter suppression have gone unchallenged. Yeah, nobody's saying you're full of crap. They were amplified by the media Democrats who had her participate on the governor's panel at their 2020 convention and sitting politicians like Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Warnock votes as senator have already hurt. Warnock's votes as senator have already hurt Georgians and will continue to do so. And they say, well, how can you do that? Well, let's read and find out. His vote for the American Rescue Plan provided $1,400 to some Georgians, costing $15 per household, $15,000 per household in the future. That bill will pay to rescue union pension plans, mismanage blue states, and punish Georgia with a cut in federal funds because our governor did not kill our economy with draconian lockdowns. So most of that money is going towards very blue states, and I live in upstate New York, so I'm in one of them, unfortunately, for mismanaging their money before COVID. And then the draconian lockdowns amplified the problem. So what do Democrats do when you F up as a Democrat? You get rewarded, of course. The effect of the massive spending has accelerated inflation in commodity and housing prices. Lumber, beef, wheat, and even coffee are all going up. Now, I'm 64. Any money that got put away for retirement is going to be worth 25% less in 3 or 4 years. That's 1/4 of my entire retirement that I've managed to save, and it's not much. It's going to be wiped out. Wiped out. We're putting a dramatic spike in all the commodities at this point in time. And right now, wage increases are coming nearly at the same pace as what all these basic inputs in the economy are going up at. Piper Sandler chief market technician Craig Johnson said, "That's why I think there's a great attention to all the commodities across the board right now, because interest rates are going up and those inflationary commodities are all advancing in price." Now, I'm old enough to know the inflation of the late 1970s. And believe me, it sucked. It sucked. It just destroyed. It's like if you have $1,000 in a bank, and in 5 years, your money is now worth $600. We were getting 15, 16, 17% inflation rates per year compounded. It's really, really bad. If you make less than $200,000 a year, you might not see a federal tax increase. But the wages you make will have less buying power, which is the same as a tax increase. Warnock will vote for another massive spending bill that calls itself an infrastructure plan, but spends only 5% of the funds on roads and bridges. Think about that. Additional spending will raise the cost of living for working, middle, and upper middle class Georgians through additional inflation. Warnock will also vote for the Equality Act, the PRO Act, and the gun control bill. The Equality Act will make girls and women less safe by requiring biological men and boys to be allowed in their safe spaces, i.e. the locker room and the showers. That ain't counting the fact that the competition is unfair. How does this help Georgians? Beats me. It will also punish churches that do not subscribe to the left-wing social agenda. The PRO Act will force Georgians to join unions, eliminating right-to-work laws, and severely limit the opportunities for gig work, freelancers, and independent contractors. Yeah, say you're a freelance writer. You're out. They did that in California. Basically, you've got to work for a media organization in order to write an article. It's crazy. So people that are independent and freelancers get screwed. How's that help Georgians? The bill's currently on the floor pushing common sense gun control, will tax ammunition and have erroneous registration fees for standard equipment on some firearms, making them prohibitive for some people to own. If a low or poor income person wants to buy a gun to protect themselves, they just screwed them. and even a lower middle class person, especially a single mother with children, wants to protect her children. Now she can't afford to. How the hell does that help you if you're in Georgia? It doesn't. Here's the deal. Say, we're not going to, how if they did this? We're not going to outlaw gasoline run cars. In fact, we're going to give tax breaks so cars are cheaper. But what we're going to do is we're going to raise the tax on gasoline to $10 a gallon. We're not taking away your right to have a car. Well, the same thing goes for guns. You tax the crap out of the ammunition so you can't buy it. You're effectively getting rid of guns. These people are dishonest and deceitful, and it's a slimy way to go about things. It is past time for Republicans to force Georgia politicians like Abrams and Warnock to get down to issues and the details of how their decisions affect Georgia families. Their Jim Crow narrative is tired and insult to the state and from the middle of the last century to the state and from the middle of the last century. It degrades the suffering of those who lived through it, memories of those who changed it, and the people living in the state today. They only use it to avoid talking about the implications of the policy they support and vote for. Yeah, it's a distraction, like a magician. It's called deflection, distraction. We'll have you look over here, but you can't see what's going on over here. Everything she said is true in this. Everything how it's going to hurt people in Georgia. And this agenda is nationwide. They can't get free money from 501c3s to, I won't use the RIGGED word because, it'll be picked up, but they'll use the rules of the election to their advantage. And it was wrong for them to do that. Is it rigging the game? Yeah, I think it is. I'm going to use the word anyway. Too bad. And that's once they have power and control, all these things she talked about will be true. So go back to the original question. This is very well written by this woman, I'll tell you. Very well done. So the original question. Do Stacey Abrams and Raphael Warnock really care about Georgians? And after reading that, and I did some background checking of some of this, and it's all true. The answer is no. What they're about is power and control. It's illusion. Here's a problem over here that really doesn't exist. That way you don't see what we're doing over here. It's the oldest trick in the world. And my God, we got a year and 8 months to hang on. I'm hoping no permanent damage is done to this country. I swear. I hope it. I swear. I hope that's true. These people are out of control. And I'll tell you the truth. This takes a lot for me to say this. These people, I believe, are truly evil. All they care about is themselves. They're so unaware of the damage they're causing to the country. But they're so egotistical that all they care about is me, 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 me. How can I get something out of it? How can I get more money? How can I control more money? And how can I get more powerful? That's all they care about. It's disgusting. We'll see what happens. Please, those of you that are down in Georgia, hear this. Don't give up the fight. Don't give 1 inch to these people because they do not negotiate in good faith and they hate you. And you cannot negotiate with people that hate you. And until next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.